Hey everybody, it's Jim of Animateducated. Today we have a special guest, Alfredo Cassano. He was an animator on Klaus, and we're going to be talking to him today on Animateducated. So what are you working on now? Are you have any personal projects, or are you looking for other stuff?
Right now I'm working with Spa Studios again. I'm helping them with the next production, about which I unfortunately can't tell anything.
So what's it about? Well, come on.
It's a complete secret.
Oh, come on. We're friends. I've known you since I've known you since 9 a.m. I mean, come on. So how did you first get into animation? I mean, this is back before, like when you were a kid. I mean, were you a artistic kid? You drew a lot, or did you just walk down the street and you saw something that was on TV and you went, wow, I want to do that? Or
I would say that animation chose me rather than I chose animation. I never remember a time when I said, okay, this is my thing. And I think it's because of my dad mainly. He's an actor, theater actor, and so he has a lot of passion for cinema. So when I was a kid, I knew all the names of the actors, and also he could draw very well. So we had a panel in the kitchen on the wall, and he used to draw Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse for me, and I was, I felt it was natural. I couldn't think, hey, my dad can draw. It was for me back at the time. Every dad would probably be able to draw. So once I found out that wasn't the case, it felt weird to me. So I started saying, okay, maybe one. I don't know. I was trying to make out a rule out of that, but I couldn't really understand why other parents couldn't draw. So that, and one of my favorite toys was a projector that my dad gave to me. It was like a very basic plastic projector that you would put Super 8 films into it, and you would control the lever, and watch them on the wall, which was my first animation school, because I could like very easily understand spacing and timing by just stopping the frame and looking what was repeated and what was changing.
Here's the Fisher-Price toy. It's looks like this. It's in really good condition. This is plastic. It still works. Basically, this is the this has Super 8 film in here. It's in a loop, and it's very durable. You just have to put it in the right way, and you just snap it in, and then your eye goes through here. There's a little focus thing that's a little broken here, but yeah, you would just go like this, and you could play it forwards, and you could play it backwards, and you could play it frame by frame. Study the animation. It was a great toy. There's still some out there on eBay somewhere, but yeah, this is great. It just works so well. Very easy design. Look at that. Just all set up really well done, and this is still works. Works great. Oh wow, you even have the box.
Italian box.
Oh, okay.
Well, Gatto Silvestre is of course Sylvester in Italian.
Oh, I see. So it was like a projector.
Yeah, and you would shoot the movie directly here. This was the
okay.
And this is the thing. Now it doesn't have any batteries in it, and the great thing, I could go backwards to incredible way to learn about the follow through. When you look it backwards, it doesn't make any sense. So I was, because what's being pulled, all of a sudden it's pulling. So it felt weird. And so I was kind of figuring out, the basics of animation thanks to this thing. And it's great because you don't have to load files or turn on. The thing is, the weird and unusual thing about probably my life compared to other animators is that at some point I switched to music because my mom wanted to introduce me to piano. I have a brother, and he showed a very early talent for piano. So my mom wanted both of us to have the same opportunity with music. And so she pushed me gently to study music, and I didn't want, of course. So I cried for a week.
Mhm.
But then I thought, hey, maybe this is fun. So I started learning very fast, and that became my main thing. I wanted to become a pianist. So in my teenage years, I really, I was giving my all my energies to that
Mhm.
until I graduated in piano when I was 21 years old. And after that, I wanted to pursue a career in music. And the thing is that I realized soon after a few years that I wasn't earning as much as I wanted to become independent. I wanted a more stable job, and it wasn't looking stable at all. And so I decided maybe it's time to either step up or quit and do something else. So I decided to step up, and I wanted to sign up for a music university in Switzerland, like a very high level school. But the thing is, I failed the admission examination. They rejected me at the. I prepared myself for maybe almost 1 year. It was like I was really giving my everything there. Yeah, and then but I had a plan B ready. So which was animation, of course. So I said, okay, you reject me, life. I'm gonna no. I made it over dramatic, but yeah. Well, it wasn't a nice moment, but I took that as an opportunity, and I said, okay, maybe it's time to turn my energies into my old dream. And so I signed up for the animation school, and that I immediately could find that the feedback I had was immediately really, really good. So I kind of, I think my evolution as a student was really fast. And I found myself working in Cartoon Saloon, within less than 2 years since I started, which I think it is a very encouraging thing for students. It's true, I had a base. I understood animation, and I always drew since I was a kid. But I officially started studying when I was maybe 26. I started in a small studio first in Dublin because they were all friends. The owners of Cartoon Saloon were friends with this other guy who had a small studio called Barley Films. And he was my first mentor. His name is Barry O'Donoghue, very, very good mentor in the Irish animation world. And, I'll never thank him enough. And basically, I started with him developing some of his projects. And then after a few months, Cartoon Saloon was starting to hire people for their projects. And Skunk Fu was the first I did with them. So I started doing, basically, they were walk cycles, run cycles for this TV show. That they would be used as reuses, for the series. After that, I went from third floor to second floor, where they were doing the Secret of Girls, and that was something totally different because the TV show was done in Flash, and the feature was done in pencil and paper, so I couldn't undo anymore.
You couldn't scale up, you couldn't copy and paste, stuff like that.
Sometimes you do, oh, this is a nice drawing I did, and then you realize it's too small.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like if you had a scene that was real small and you animated it, and it's like, well, that's great, but it's too small. You would have to like go to a copy machine and just peg it and then blow everything up.
I know.
And then you'd have to paste it down and make sure it's registered. And then you'd have to go back and clean up all those drawings. So,
but it's great because I think once you learn the hard way, right, you start to plan things ahead better, which is what an animator should do. So I would recommend actually even students now to start with pencil and paper, because it is an experience that tells you a lot about animation.
I think you're teaching the like traditional animation.
Yeah, I'm teaching.
So so we're both doing that. And yeah, I always tell my students, because there's those people that want to go into computer animation, but they really want to learn how to do this. And I say that you can still apply all the principles that you're learning in here to your computer. you know,
Of
which is
course.
great. So it's not like you're waste of time or something.
Oh, no. Let's say you have an idea for an animation and you want to do it in 3D, but doing some sketches, there is nothing faster than that. Taking a piece of paper and lay down some very rough sketches, some thumbnails. There is nothing. You don't have to turn it on. You don't have to load the drivers. You don't have to do anything. It's just there and it works. So yeah.
So I want to find out. So you were in Ireland. You worked there and you did all this stuff, and then you got into storyboarding, and then you suddenly you arrived at Klaus. And how did that happen?
Well, that happened this way. I was here freelancing, and I was browsing the internet, one of those lazy days, and I stumbled upon the old teaser that was around back then. It just came out. And so there's Jesper knocking at the door saying, "Good morning, madam," and a good morning it is indeed. As soon as he said indeed, I was already thinking, I'm going to work on that thing. Because those few frames, everything just disappeared around me. First thing I thought was, is this 3D or 2D?
Right.
Either it's a very well made 3D, something that I've never seen before, or it's 2D that looks like 3D, but without the disadvantages of 3D. Because sometimes 3D looks like rubbery, kind of foamy, rubbery thing. I don't like it much.
Yeah, there was a time when everything looked the same. Everybody's animating the same way.
Exactly. Yes.
And and it was all. And now we have some that are like kind of human, kind of caricature.
I agree.
Yeah.
And there was that right amount of imperfection that catched my eye. And so I decided it was 2D, and I noticed that Sergio Pablos was involved. So I said, okay, now I have to be there. I have to go there. And I had some previous contact with Sergio Pablos in years before, but we never met in person. So basically that thing never happened back at the time. So, but we had our emails, so we knew who we were. I think he was aware of my show reel back then. I wrote to the studio as soon as they were hiring, because they made it public. It was known when they started hiring. And so I asked for a test package, to start to apply. And they sent me the material. I did the test, and after a few months and a few accidents, because I think they had a lot of applications, so there was some mix-up, but then we figured it out, and everything went well in the end. So I was called. The condition to work on the movie was, of course, that I would go there to Spain, to Madrid, which at the beginning it was something I wasn't really willing to do. I wasn't really happy about living again, because I'm not in my 20s anymore. So if you know what I mean, is I wasn't really looking forward for another moving. But then I said, well, maybe I shouldn't be thinking about this and just go. And I did that. I would never regret it, because as soon as I went into the studio and I saw the studio and met the team, I immediately realized that I did the right thing to be there, because the team was awesome, was fantastic. So many talents. I've never met so many talents in my life all together. It was almost the first thing you think is, this is awesome. And then the second one is, this is scary, because that you have to be at the same level as them, so you understand you're playing a game where you have to play well, basically, and you have to do amazing things. So that is, you feel the responsibility, right? So yeah, there was always this kind of double feeling, inspiration on one hand and fear on the other.
Yeah, I think that's good though, because that keeps you.
That's
so you're
ideal,
not, so you're not like, no, that's just another job. It's
exactly.
good to get into that situation where you're like, terrified, but you're like,
Inspired.
wow, this is really good stuff, and this is really going to go somewhere, and I'm a
That's the
part of
best.
this, you know.
That's the best. In the on Klaus, the difference was that well, the character design implied a kind of deeper level of animation, so a more sophisticated level of animation. So whereas where, for example, on The Secret of Kells or Song of the Sea, you could basically move less things and draw less things to render the animation, even subtle things, subtle acting things.
Mhm.
You cannot do that on characters like Klaus or Jesper, you know, because there are more breaks, there are more articulations, so it's more complex basically. It's a more complex language.
Now, were you doing a lot of animating on ones?
No, not that much. It depends on the scenes. Mostly it was on twos, but it depends. Like acting scenes were mostly in twos.
Mm-hmm.
But it depends also on the character you had. Jesper is a more nervous and squashy and stretchy comedy character. So very often he happens to be in scenes where a lot of emotion is implied. And so, yeah, especially in my scenes, because I was one of the comedic animators. And so I had quite a bit of scenes in ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, this scene here,
yeah. So this is just him landing on the
yeah,
the thing, and I love you've got all the timing charts here.
yeah.
So if you had to go through it and study how you got from there to there, you can see you also have some really big notes here.
Yeah.
So they fly by when you watch it, but yeah. Now, did you come up with these gags, or were they?
No. They were in the storyboard. The
Yeah.
storyboard
Okay.
was quite
Right.
detailed there, and this was a scene that was storyboarded many times, and the final version was by Sergio Pablos himself. When he briefed me about that scene, he said, "Look, the storyboard is pretty detailed here, but I don't want to see the same thing in the final rough, in the final tie down,"
Right.
which was kind of not really clear for me at the beginning. And because it's like saying, stick to the storyboard, but don't do it at the same time. You know, when in the moment in the gap when he's pushing the reindeer in the storyboard, he drew like multiple feet to suggest that there was a lot of motion. So he probably meant, don't do that. I mean,
Right.
I'm explaining that there is a lot of motion there, but you have to figure it out as, you know, as a proper animation, rather than one drawing with a lot of feet. So I guess that's what he meant. And actually, I have to be honest, that one was a easiest approved scene. He just saw it once and he didn't give me any retakes, probably because the storyboard was so already detailed. But in terms of animation, I didn't have any retake on that one. The horns of the reindeers are drawn, but they are actually a trace back of 3D horns that were underneath. So we had 3D elements for the horn, the antlers, sorry, that were underneath, you know, on a different layer, and I had to keyframe those first, and then I could trace them back.
Wow.
With 2D. Yeah, which I think was the right thing to do. And I remember I had another version of this done with Klaus that was more kind of, when Jesper talks and says, no, you know, the fence is there, I cannot go in, sorry. And Klaus is listening, but he's not reacting, right? But in my first version, Klaus was more like human. He was kind of, oh, okay, you know, so if that's the problem, I'm gonna. But Victor Enns, the Klaus supervisor, made me redo that because the idea was that Klaus was kind of really deadpan, you know, like almost like a machine, very practical, but not without emotion at that time, because it's in the arc of the story. We still don't know Klaus. We don't know if he's good or bad. So yeah, he's kind of really there's no emotion in him. So I inadvertently put some emotion in him, and that was taken out in the second version. Yeah,
So,
and also I like the fact that there is a lot of contrast between the two. One is like a rock, and the
yeah,
other one is nervous. He's moving a lot. So
right.
yeah,
He's all over the place.
yeah.
Yeah. So this was this is probably kind of a cleaned up or rough, or how would you describe
This was the tie down. This
tie
is
down? Okay.
yeah. This
So
was
that
the second part.
yeah. So you had a lot of rough drawings in here before, and then you've kind of cleaned them up and got them.
Yeah, there was one
good
previous
point.
pass.
Yeah, and you can see how Klaus comes up and he just kind of grabs these things, and Jesper has no clue. Those eyes are closed. He has no clue, which is great.
No clue that he's able
And
to
then
open the
gets
bar.
pushed in, lifted up, not just pushed in, but actually lifted up and then placed into the
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
and the doors close.
yeah. Sergio Pablo's indication here was like treat Jesper like a cardboard put there without completely without weight, to suggest that Klaus is very strong and he's super light. So he's,
In the past, they would always have the animator who is like, you're the Klaus guy, or you're the Jesper guy. So when you did your scenes, was it one of those things where you did your entire scene all by yourself, or did you?
we had both. We had both situations.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
for example, the ones that we just saw with Klaus and Jesper, I animated both characters.
Mhm.
I had some help from Klaus' supervisor, because he was so much faster at handling the character that whenever we had any uncertainty, feeling the weight or the physics of that character, he would quickly come over and help us. But yeah, in that case, I animated both. In some other scenes, we split the screen. So I would do Jesper and he would do Klaus. That would be ideal from a quality point of view, but production people don't like that, because once they come to you and say, how much footage did you do? And you say, oh, I did 5 seconds. Then they go to him and he says, I did 5 seconds as well, but it doesn't account for 10 seconds, it's still 5 seconds, and the same 5 seconds reanimated by someone else. So it's kind of confusing for production people to keep a count of the amount of footage. So at some point we had meetings to say, guys, we can't do this anymore. So if you get a character in a scene, you're gonna animate everyone else in the scene. So yeah, that was the idea. So
when you animated them and you roughed them out and you tied them down, all that stuff, did you just go to like in betweening and go through the whole process, and then someone else colored it and all that? Or
yes.
So there was no assistance. There was no someone that like the in-betweener. Oh, okay, I'll take it.
Well, no. The in-betweeners were in the cleanup department. So they were cleaning up the keys and doing the in-betweens at the same time.
Wow, okay.
At a cleanup stage. But we were encouraged to provide as many in-betweens as we could. So we left, if you check my tie downs there, it's almost everything there. Sometimes the character disappears. Whenever that happens, or whenever there is a partial, is because the in-between there is quite obvious. So it's something that can be left to the assistant, because there is no interpretation to be done. So yeah, most of the times we were encouraged to do that. It depends on the animators. I wanted to be fast, so I left more in-betweens to the in-betweeners than other animators did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm personally never sure about what I'm delivering until I see the whole thing in between. So I would rather do the in-betweens myself and check how it's coming out, to fine tune the timing and the spacing and everything. And then I say, okay, now I can put charts, but it's more or less clear with the drawings already. So the charts are just one more extra information, but the drawings are there.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, this was like a fake interview to the characters that were part of the nominations. So there were all these fake interviews, and back at the time I worked on this one with my partner Alessandra Sorrentino. She's now at Pixar. She's a storyboard artist at Pixar now, and we both animated that scene together. We basically split the clip together, which is like a little bit like, putting a lamp together. It felt kind of weird because, one person can do that alone, but we used to split everything. So
Wow.
yeah, 9 seconds footage, but we split it. It was like a sudden thing, and Cartoon Saloon needed someone to do that clip as fast as possible because the Oscars were coming. And so they asked us, we said yes, and after 2 weeks it was already colored and done.
Wow. Well, that's nice. That's nice to have those little extra things that you didn't plan.
We were definitely on something else, and we didn't want to miss this chance of doing something for the Oscars. So, it's one of those times when you, how Schwarzenegger says, take some shortcuts sometimes, right? And that's
Right.
one of those.
Yeah.
Break some rules, he says.
Yeah. Klaus didn't win the Oscar. I think it went to, and which was a shame, but it did show, it was nominated, and it did show that, hey, there's something else out there besides, CG, and 2D isn't quite dead yet,
No, not at all.
that.
Actually, it's very alive. The landscape is way better now than it was 10 years ago, way better. And I think Cartoon Saloon is probably one of the main reasons why 2D revived. It took a while, it took years. And I think they did a great thing by never giving up, showing that you could do 2D maybe in a different way, in a more original way, and that kept the thing floating. And then I think Klaus has been kind of the final blow to this belief that 2D is dead. It's not dead at all. And it's, it gives you the thing about 2D that I'm sure about is that it ages way better than 3D. 3D is so connected to the technology that once something new comes out, it's like a miracle, right? It's like, oh yeah, but then 2 days after that, nobody wants to see that again. No, it's like when the Nintendo Wii came out, everybody was with these remotes, doing crazy stuff with the hands, throwing remotes against the TVs and breaking screens. Then after a month, it's already old, it's like, oh yeah, I did that. But 2D, no, if you look at the Jungle Book or Sword in the Stone, it's like, oh yeah, this is what I want to see. Every time there is that feeling of, oh yeah, sure, that's the thing. And I think Klaus is the same thing. It won't age as easily as 3D movies.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any advice for students that come to you and say, I want to be in animation, or how do I do this? Or
yeah, well, I basically tell them not to do it. Just kidding. No. Well, I try to make them understand since the beginning that it's a lot about acting more than drawing. I mean, of course, you draw a lot, but acting is the main thing. So, and I tell this to them because they might not realize how much acting is involved in the work. Maybe they think, okay, I can draw, so I can animate, and that's not the case, because you can draw very well and still do a lot of wrong choices in terms of acting taste, right? So I make sure they understand that as soon as possible, and I try to encourage them and to keep their enthusiasm as high as possible. But I never lie about the fact that it's a lot of work and you need a lot of patience even to cover 2 seconds of animation is like already 16, 18 drawings, 20 drawings, almost the same drawing, you just change a little thing here and there. So you need a lot of patience to do this job. So yeah, I try to be as clear as possible.
Thank Alfredo Cassano for coming on Animateducated, and you know, it's great meeting you finally, and talking about Klaus and all your what you've been doing in animation. And I'll put up your website so people can take a look at it, you know. And yeah, and thanks for coming on Animateducated.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
pleasure for me. Yeah, absolutely.
You're welcome. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Alfredo Cassano, animator, educator, worked on Klaus, pretty good. He does have a website. I'll put it right down here so you can see it and go to that and see what other things he's worked on. He also works at CG Spectrum, an online school that you might be interested in. Check it out. And if you enjoyed this interview in any way, please subscribe by pushing that little button right there. And then I do have other animation interviews with writers, producers, directors. If you scroll down, you'll see them on the channel here. This video here, this is a good one. And that's not bad either. So check them out, see what you think, and we'll see you next time on Animateducated.